Hey everyone, welcome to Beacon Bits with my co-host Serge Boudreau. We're still debating on who's the best looking Boudreau, but we'll figure out someday. Serge, welcome.
Oh, it's not a
Welcome to
debate.
my show.
Yes, there's no debate. I am by far the best looking of the Boudreaux, but let's put it out to a poll and see what comes out. I'm a little bit nervous because you're taller, right? So that might sway, but that's the only reason.
You can't tell on camera. No one
That's
can tell
true.
on camera. You actually look taller than me right now. Your shoulders are higher than me on the video.
It's just I'm broader. Muscle. That's what happens. I'm known as a muscle guy, so
Totally.
no one should be surprised. But I'm curious because obviously we're dealing with our challenges here in Calgary, Alberta with the water main break. But then I'm looking at the news and you are like, are you in Canada? Because there's no way 40 Celsius, which is like 100 Fahrenheit, that you ever see that. What's going on there?
It's insane. I've had friends that came to visit me from San Francisco for the first time ever, and so I think their first thought was that it was going to be they were dressed for some cold weather and they were just shocked. They're like and I had to it's obviously not normal for June to have 40 degrees Celsius, 45 I think it was 2 days ago, which is crazy.
Wow.
But yeah, they were like, oh, like Canada is a lot warmer than I thought it was going to be. Well, yeah, it's also June. They also saw my my snowblower in the garage, and literally said, "What is that thing?" So, I've never seen one before. Yeah, different worlds, but yeah, it's getting a little bit better today. So,
Recently I was in San Francisco and I found it way colder than it is in Canada. And I've been there in the summer, and
yeah,
I think it's the coldest I've ever felt going to watch a baseball game at, I forget what the stadium name is, but right
Giant
on the
Stadium. Yeah.
river. Oh my God, it was freezing. Uh, uh, Funny enough, I've had someone comment on a snowblower in the past and they never had seen one and they called it a snow mower. I'm like, okay. I could see why you would think that.
Well, he actually thought it was for the lawn, and I was like, "What did you think that we used to mow the lawn?" Because I didn't. My lawnmower is in a different. It's not in the garage.
Yeah.
It's in the shed in the back. So, and I think in the States or even here now they call it snow throwers. So I don't know.
Oh,
So that might be why. But anyway, it was a huge topic of conversation. I tried not to make fun of him too much, but yeah.
yeah. You can't call. But Eve, I want to talk about a couple of things today, and one of the things that's kind of recently surfaced up, and there's debates like on Reddit and on LinkedIn. It's a whole notion of sending a thank you note after an interview. And there is some voices out there, and like, believe it or not, a lot of recruiters say that you shouldn't. And the reason they say you shouldn't is like, if they want to hire you, they should send you a thank you note to come to the interview. And maybe 2 or 3 years ago, when the market was completely shifted the other way, it still didn't make any sense to me, but I could see that happening more. They also feel it's kind of, I don't want to use discrimination at all, but the way they're wording it is, some people have not had the education or the knowledge that you should say thank you note based on their background. So it's giving an unfair advantage to people that grew up with parents that did interviews, like in white collar type roles. But honestly, can I give my frank opinion? I'm like, anything you can do to stand out, you should do. And if you didn't know about it, well, now you do. So send a thank you note and send a really, like, not like a generic one. Send one that is very clean. Appreciate the interview. Here are a couple of points that I want to reiterate. I really enjoyed what you had to say here. Anything, right? What's your thoughts? Do you like thank you notes?
Well, first and foremost, it's crazy that there's a debate on this right now. Like that, this is like it's almost like they're running out of things to debate on. Do I like thank you notes? I mean, sure. Like,
Well, do you open them? Because you hire people, right? You're a hiring manager and you interview people.
are
Do
these letters
people?
that come in the mail? Like, are they like
No, they
emails?
come email or at
Yeah,
work,
yeah. I totally
LinkedIn
open them.
email, or
Yeah, I mean, so we, as you know, we have a bursary program, and we had
Yeah.
10 winners last year, and actually one of them sent like a thank you card like to the. And my first thought process was like, okay, this person has like a leg above in some ways. Like maybe it's not right for me to think that way, but like the fact that they went above and beyond, like just saying thank you over
Yeah.
a call, like send a thank you letter, and how much the bursary impacted them and helped them, and how thankful they were. So, and I shared it with the team. I thought it was cool because for us, it made us realize, okay, like, hey, we actually had like it was a really
Yeah.
impactful thing to do for them. But do I feel like the others aren't as deserving or as good as he was as far as like getting a bursary? No, like I just thought he was really smart at this part, and a good skill like to have to take into as he's about to embark on his career, to have the awareness to maybe do some those types of things.
I find it weird that you had to qualify that at the start in by saying, well, maybe I shouldn't have like preferred that person. Because in reality, what's wrong with that? Like to me, that's showing, hey, initiative. They want to stand out.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's good. It's a good question. I guess I just don't know that that makes that person a more deserving winner than the other nine, because we had 10 winners in total.
Yeah.
Um, but that's where my brain went automatically. It just went, and maybe it's because we don't see that as much these days
Yeah.
of like someone like going the extra effort to, so like send something physically as a thank you. As far as interviews go, or like as a thank you note for an interview, everything's competitive. Everything's competition. So if you're trying to stand out and you're doing it, you have to be authentic about how you do it. But if you're sending a letter saying, "Hey, thank you for your time today. I really, appreciated you talking about these topics. And here's a few other things that I meant to share with you during the interview that I
Yeah.
didn't get a chance." Like you're just showing that you're thinking a bit more strategically than perhaps the other people. And to your point earlier, is that unfair? Is that unfair? Maybe, but it's kind of the world we live in. Like it's like you gotta find a ways to stand out when everything starts to look the same, feel the same, especially with AI, which we're not going to talk about today because we've already talked enough about AI. That's the last time we'll say those two letters. But yeah, I had no idea this was a debate. So
Yeah, I kind of sprung this on you, and it's funny because it seems this debate pops up every 2 years. Because it's funny when you go on, like, just do a search on thank you notes. There's articles going 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years. I don't want to debate it. I'm just thinking if you're listening to this and wondering should I or should I not, there is literally zero harm. You are not going to get a job if you send a thank you note. So why not do it? Why not stand out? Um, I don't know. I don't know if you saw this, Eve, but talking about showing initiative and the gentleman that applied for a job by going to the office with a box of donut with his resume and acting as a delivery guy. I don't know if you get the job, actually. I should have followed up on that. But hey, in a tough job market, and we all know, we're all hearing it from our friends. I think that they're struggling. There's a lot of folks that are struggling to find jobs out there. So if you can stand out in any way, I'm not saying get a friggin' box of donuts and like just go in a costume of a delivery driver, but initiative is never bad when it comes to job searching.
yeah, I mean, like you said, I don't think that everyone should be starting to deliver a box of donuts to places they want to work. If you look back at like even the thank you note, it's not indifferent than a salesperson that you have a sales call with and they follow up like shortly after, right?
Yeah.
Compared to the ones that you have a sales call with and then you don't hear from them for 2, 3, 4 days, right away you're like, okay, well, which person do I want to do business with? The one who's on the ball with their follow-ups, or the one who probably fell through the cracks? What does that mean for the rest of that relationship and the rest of those interactions?
That's a good point.
The box of donuts especially depend on the role. If that's someone who's applying for a marketing type of position or any type of creative
Yeah.
positions, like I think you're sending a great signal. But I don't think like don't show up with a box of donuts because you're looking for a role in construction necessarily, but if you're looking for sales, marketing, anything creative, box of donuts is a good way to say that, hey, I understand the psychology. Jeez.
The what? The
I
what? The what?
I understand the psychology of these roles and that they require someone who understands how to stand out. So I'm a fan.
What, like, you've had a lot of experience, probably people reaching out to you or applying for jobs or anything top of your mind, and that you're thinking, that was amazing when they did that. Like, anyone stand out to you in your long history? Because we know how old you are.
I don't know if we talked about this before or not, but it was Anthony Yu for me. For my when I was in San Francisco in 2015, we were at a career fair. We were looking for someone to help us with a growth marketer, so someone who would
Uh,
help us stand out in a very crowded space with obviously a lot of noise in the HR tech industry. And we're like, okay, who can help us? We want to hire someone, and he showed up at this job fair, and he basically put a smiley face on the back of his resume or in the corner of his resume, and it's because he saw that we didn't have the time to talk to him at that moment because we were like getting inundated with people just coming to our booth and wanting to drop resumes. They said, "Hey, I see that you're super busy right now, so I put a smiley face on the corner of my resume so you remember me when you look at these tomorrow, and so we can have an offline conversation." And
love it.
right away, it made me think, okay, well, we're looking for a growth marketer. We're looking for someone who knows how to think differently about standing out, and that was magic for me. And he turned out to be really good at it. So that was probably the best example I would say of someone. And I've had the opposite. I've had people like follow us almost to the point of being like a little creepy, knew everything about us. Like
Yeah.
followed all of our social, like we're like, hey, like I saw that you were at this thing last week, and then would constantly reach out and almost as a fan of the company
Yeah.
and hire that person, and that person turning out to be terrible. So
Really?
sometimes like even yeah, just like so like just because someone really loves everything about your company, the culture,
Yeah.
the environment, the work settings and everything else, like it doesn't mean they're a great hire. But we were like, hey, if she's really passionate about us as a company, maybe she'll do great, so let's give her a chance. And it was not at all a good experience. But like those are the two extremes, I guess, from doing that. You can
Can
do
I
that
tell
as
you?
long as you can back it up.
Yeah. But Eve, I'm going to jump into
I
something.
want to share a quick story too.
Sure.
It's actually not like it's not actually related necessarily to. I had three young people, gentlemen, come to my house like 2 days ago, 3 days ago, to offer window cleaning services.
Okay.
They're in school, they're still in high school. They couldn't get any summer employment, so they decided to just like um, try to figure out if they can create their own opportunity. So they came over and I was really, really impressed with them just around like, first of all, taking the initiative to do this, right? Like no one wants to hire. They're all newcomers to the region, so they're not local. They're not from here originally. And so I was really impressed with just the professionalism of them and just like making sure that they're using products that don't hurt the plants around the house. So I thought it was really cool. So, but they were just wearing like street clothes, and
Yeah.
so I hooked them up today with some business cards. I did a logo for them, business cards and shirts, just to kind of help them to remove any seeds of doubt that this is a legit thing that they're trying to do as a summer. But I love like the fact that they didn't just like sit there and just be like, okay, there's no summer job opportunity for
Yeah.
me. They just went and created it. I just don't see that very often, and just wanting to supporting them, and hopefully like with a little bit more of a credible approach to their they'll have more houses to clean. But yeah, they stood out in their own way, not necessarily in like in a with a donut
No.
box, but they stood out in how impressed I was.
You know what's going to happen is, so 3 months from now, I'm going to open the Times and Transcript and be like, robberies happening everywhere. And then the notes be like, they seem credible. They had
So
uniforms and business cards.
you're so you're so you're so negative.
Yeah. I wouldn't laugh, but I would laugh in some way. So
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, to be fair, I did tell him because like part of that we have had a lot of break-ins in our neighborhood, so it's like, hey, like it does, you're going to
Yeah.
have people that are concerned about whether this is legit or not, especially if you're just showing up with like street clothes and no real like official kind of presence. So anyway, we'll see. But I thought it was I thought it was cool to see. I always love seeing like young people find creative ways to find gainful employment, right? Even if no one is willing to hire them right now.
Do you know my first job in sales was door to door, and it was selling alarms. And eventually, I was so good that I got a team, and I had a minivan that I would drive this team around, and we go in the neighborhood and all spread out, right? And as we started the business, we needed a license to do door to door knocking or something like
Mm,
that, and we didn't get the right one. But the owner was like, "Ah, screw it, don't worry, who's gonna know?" Um, until we knocked on the door of the city inspector that actually approved these license. Yeah, we were shut down for a little while. It definitely did not help us, but it goes to the credibility because we had the uniforms. You needed like that tag, and because God knows, like you don't
yeah,
know.
yeah,
But I
so
agree, standing out.
yeah.
But I
So
agree, standing out does make a difference. But on that note, I want to go into a little bit of a different topic that we will spend some time on it. And I want to give you my perspective, then I want to get your perspective as a
mm,
business owner. And one of it is I get from a lot of people I work with, different departments, but obviously in my world of talent acquisition is like, we're just not seen as strategic. And like, how can I be seen as strategic within the organization that I'm thinking about the right thing? And I'm like, is this just a talent acquisition or HR problems? But does marketing feel this way? Does finance like? And the impression that I got in doing some research that pretty much all departments feel that they're not seen as strategic. There's and sales is the one department that just feels that, well, we run the company and it doesn't matter if you see us as strategic.
right.
I'm not saying that's right, but that's the only department that's very confident in their abilities. But I look at it, I'm going to give you my perspective on talent acquisition. And when people ask me, like, what can you do in that sense? And we get stuck into our own metrics, like time to fill, time to hire, source of hire. And those are the metrics that we're sharing with other departments. And a CEO, a COO, a CFO is like, okay, so what does that mean?
Mm,
I think we have to do a better job of talking about business challenges in the sense of how do these metrics, or are we measuring the right metrics that actually impact the business that the CEO would care about? So what is our cost of having a vacancy open for 6 months internally, especially say it's a billable role? Well, that might be $500,000. And those are numbers that we got to start sharing to give that credibility of like, no, we're not a cost center. We're actually
mm.
driving value to the business. If we weren't doing what we did, the revenue would not come in. So that's one example of talent acquisition. And I can go into more. But you as a CEO, and then you're dealing with multiple departments, when you look at these departments, what really hits you be like they're thinking strategically, they're thinking about the business, not only their small world. Is there like triggers for you?
The triggers for me are the signs that someone is thinking more about the business as a whole is that they're having conversations with other departments. You know, they're working with marketing to make sure that marketing is supporting them in their efforts to show up in the right light when they're promoting these opportunities.
Mhm.
They're talking to the rest of the team to make sure that when they do find someone that's really great for the organization, that everyone's invested in the success of that person when they join the team. So there's someone that's essentially driving those things that are outside of just the administrative function of hiring someone. It's like any department. If no one knows what you're doing or understands what you're doing,
Yeah,
you're not going to be seen as a strategic like individual or department in your organization. People are just going to go, they do what they do, and as long as they don't bother me, it doesn't bother me. So that's why we're seeing a lot more emphasis on team and culture,
yeah.
but I think it's just making sure that you're not operating in a siloed kind of environment.
Do you have a bias, or immediately in your head you're like, these types of departments are not strategic?
I still have a hard time seeing organization I work with as departments.
Okay, well,
So yeah, I don't have any particular bias. I think it just also depends on how big the organization is, where they are in like their
their impact.
growth
Yeah.
cycles. I can tell you right now, like we're not big enough for that we would have a talent acquisition department. But
No,
if
but
we were,
say you
I would
might have
think,
an HR department.
yeah,
Maybe you have a marketing, you sales. Where I was going, because I'm always curious when it comes to entrepreneurs in the tech industry, or like this has been said really loudly by pretty successful entrepreneurs, that I'm not getting HR until I have hundreds of employees because they stifle my growth in some way. Is that fair, unfair? So that's where I'm thinking like strategic value and how people see, especially CEOs that are building companies from scratch, is like, is that the last priority of me building is an HR department when I get to this point? Or is it like, might be completely different? It might be you have really good product market fit and you don't need marketing right away.
I I don't know if this is a right or wrong answer, but like
Just
I don't
know
I
it.
wouldn't hire an HR person like with a team under 100 right now, but I would hire someone on the people culture side of the company that would make sure that we have everything. HR sometimes is a bit of a tainted word for a number of reasons, just like the word consultant can be considered a tainted word, or coach, right? Or business coach. Like there's a lot of great HR people, but the ones that are really, really good are also care about the company culture, also care about
Yeah.
making sure that they become the connector of all these, not just the departments, but the individuals themselves. And so for me, like I look back at where we are strong and weak as an organization, and I would love to see that we would have better training and onboarding for new hires, because we operate as a startup. We operate with a bit of a mentality of like, figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, here's the job, and we give you a little bit of guidance, and figure out the rest. But that's not really scalable forever. So it'd be great to have someone that can help create those onboarding plans, can create training plans, making sure there's touch points on a regular basis around how is that person feeling, how's the rest of the organization supporting that those individuals that have joined the team. But is it HR? Is that maybe that's a new version of HR 3.0 or 4.0, whatever the point 0 that people are using these days?
Well, I think you kind of nailed it. It's kind of a rebrand that HR has gone through to people in culture, as far as that proactive, strategic partner that is helping and drive the business. Is it happening everywhere? No, there's still very much like HR departments, but I think you nailed it. I think this is the perfect example of strategic approach to the business, and people being a critical part. Because as you know, a startup scaling double the size in a couple of years, if your operations or has any flaws, it gets magnified, right? You're just you mentioned people in culture and to replace HR, and I'm curious here, because that's a debate that we have as well, is culture, should culture be owned by people in culture or HR, whatever way we want to brand it, or should be owned by the CEO? Who should own culture?
I think everyone should own it, like in the team. Like we are responsible. Executives are responsible, or CEOs or founders are responsible for setting the stage. But I think everyone has a part to uphold it. But it starts with us. It starts with the executive. I think where the person in that role, whether that we call them an HR person or a people culture person, their role is to maybe make sure that, um, there might be things that are brewing that we're not aware of, right?
Yeah.
There might be things that someone is unhappy for whatever reason, or there's blind sides that can build up where we're not aware that there's deterioration happening
Yeah.
within the happiness levels of people in the organization or the other aspects of the business. I think that's where they can play a part, is helping us make sure that there's reducing the blind spots, sorry, to this. Um, but if you ask me today whether I need someone, who's going to basically maintain employment records and manage a complaint box, and there's not going to be enough there to do. But if there's someone that could, at some point, even when we're 20 or 30 people, like bring in someone that can help us scale to that next level of 40 to 50, 50 to 100, 100%, that's a strategic person for the
Yeah.
organization.
Yeah, I was curious what your feelings as a CEO on the culture side of it, because that's another debate that we have in our little world of HR and talent acquisition. And I don't think HR, people in culture, whatever you want to call it, should own culture. I think it should always be the CEO, right? And obviously, everyone to your part has a piece in it, but it's not something you can delegate, especially when you're smaller. It's like you got to own it, you got to live it, and if you don't, it doesn't matter what the person in HR does, or it's like they look at you or and the executive team to that point. So,
Yeah, I've had some people over that wasn't their role or their responsibility, but I've had people in the past come to me like especially I get busy, things like, sometimes I lock myself into a room for days at a time to get to work on something, not realizing there's other aspects of the business that are negatively impacted. And I've had people tell me, hey, this person is really struggling right now, and I probably wouldn't have picked up on it or seen
yeah,
it. I'm not. That's all part of like maintaining the culture, because you have someone who actually cares about someone on the other team, and they're not saying this to throw anyone under the bus. They're saying this to make sure that to bring attention to me, so I can address it before it becomes a bigger thing. So um, that's where I think people can play a part in. But yeah, an isolated HR role for a team at our size, probably not going to see it for a long time.
no, no. But I guess the end point to that conversation is being strategic in any role that you have. I think there's a couple of pieces of advice is think about the business. Don't always think only of your department and how your metrics and what you're doing affects the business. And the other thing is like you mentioned is you got to work with teams, right? You can't work in silos. You got to work cross departmentally to really understand the business. Understanding the business gives you so much credibility within all the departments, no matter what type of business it is. So,
Yeah, the the original question, whether there's still strategic departments or not, it also going to depend. Like it's going to be different for different types of
yeah,
organization. And also, when an organization is struggling, whether that's an organization struggling financially, they may not see it as much of a strategic department, because they're going to be after on survival mode for a while and just operate with a really lean team. And executives don't always make the right decisions when it comes to when a company struggles. A lot of times, the first things they cut is marketing,
yeah,
which or sales. Those are actually your individuals or your tactics that help you get back on track. Yet you're cutting them.
yeah.
So I think HR falls into that sometimes, or talent acquisition falls into that, where it's like, hey, we're not going to be hiring for the next year or two, so we essentially don't need this group of individuals and then we'll rehire when we're ready again.
Oh, I have feelings on that, Eve. Like I get it for smaller companies. For larger organizations, it's this endless circle of just ineptitude because you're hiring, firing, hiring, firing. No one is actually building pipelines when it's down. No one's creating a structure. You're starting all the time from scratch, which is that like for large organizations, you should keep a bench of recruiters, even if you don't have any roles. Obviously, I'm very biased in saying that, but we're never going to fix this recruiting problem that we've been dealing with forever if we keep changing people. On that note, Eve, it's been a while. We haven't recorded. It's been more than a couple of weeks since we recorded, and this is episode 6. So we're moving ahead.
We broke the. Didn't you say that 5 episodes is when most podcasts stop after 5?
6 actually. So
Oh, is
it's
it? Okay, so we need to record one
97%
more.
of podcast episodes, podcast shows don't go past 6 episodes. So we're there. We just need to do one more. And I've realized too is we're getting a little bit better, but this, like for the audience listening, we are going to get way better moving forward. We've got plans here.
Oh, I've plateaued. Like this is you're gonna have to carry me for the rest of
Well,
this.
you plateaued the second episode, so we're good. Like we're just gonna keep moving.
Yeah, no, I'm enjoying it. I think we have a lot of topics that it's gonna we're gonna mix it up. I've got some ideas for topics, even things that we're experiencing as a company
Yeah.
here. I wanted to start talking more openly about. Yeah, everything's changing so quickly that we're not going to run out of things to talk about, and we're two people that don't have a lot of trouble talking a lot about stuff.
No,
So,
you can't shut up. That's an issue. I have to get away from my shyness, but
well, you also can't say successful. So,
well, I can say psychology. Um, all
touche.
right, audience, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate this, and until the next show, thank you for listening to Beacon Bits.